When we look at South Korea, the world often admires its remarkable economic growth, its cutting-edge technology, and its global cultural influence through K-pop, cinema, and fashion. Beneath this glamorous surface, however, lies a devastating reality. South Korea consistently ranks among the countries with the highest suicide rates among young people, especially students. This tragic paradox raises a painful question. How is it possible that in a society so advanced in science, technology, and prosperity, the very generation meant to inherit the future feels so hopeless that they choose death over life? To answer this, we need to look beyond numbers and statistics. We need to uncover the hidden weight carried by millions of young shoulders and understand why development, if measured only by material progress, can sometimes come at the cost of human happiness. In South Korea, education is often described as a national obsession. Students are told from an early age that their entire future depends on academic performance, particularly on one decisive event: the College Scholastic Ability Test, known as Sunang. This exam is not just another test. It is a life-defining moment. Students prepare for it for years, studying from early morning until late at night, often spending additional hours in private cram schools, called hagwons, which keep their doors open until midnight. For many teenagers, there is no such thing as childhood in the traditional sense. Their days are consumed by textbooks, exams, and endless competition. The fear of failure is not just personal. It carries a heavy social stigma. A low score is not only a disappointment to oneself, but also a perceived shame for the family. Stories of students taking their own lives immediately after disappointing results are tragically common. The relentless pursuit of academic success has turned education into a battlefield where the casualties are measured not in failed grades but in lost lives. Another dimension of this crisis lies in the cultural fabric of South Korean society. This is a collectivist society where success is rarely seen as an individual matter. Instead, it is tied to family honor and social reputation. Children grow up not only studying for themselves, but carrying the weight of their parents' expectations and the pride of extended relatives. In such an environment, failure feels magnified. It feels like betraying an entire family line. The rise of social media has only intensified this burden. Platforms that should connect people often become stages for endless comparison. Teenagers are constantly bombarded with images of classmates celebrating achievements, getting accepted into top universities, or presenting their curated, perfect lives. For a student already struggling, scrolling through these feeds can be devastating. The gap between the life they live and the life they see online creates a sense of inadequacy and self-hatred that eats away at their mental health. One would expect that in a modern society filled with advanced hospitals, cutting-edge technology, and even artificial intelligence, mental health would be better protected. Yet this is one of the most painful contradictions. South Korea has world-class medical facilities, but mental health remains stigmatized. Seeking therapy or counseling is often perceived as weakness, as if asking for help is a confession of personal failure rather than a step toward healing. Because of this stigma, countless students remain silent. They endure sleepless nights, panic attacks, and crushing loneliness without telling anyone their struggles remain invisible. And in that silence, the darkness grows deeper. By the time their despair is noticed, it is often too late. Even within families, the very place where children should feel safe and unconditionally loved, many students instead encounter more pressure. Parents, who often work long hours to support the household, come home with one question on their lips: how were your grades today? Conversations about dreams, feelings, or emotional struggles are replaced with conversations about test scores and university admissions. This is not to say that parents do not love their children. On the contrary, their intentions often come from a place of care and sacrifice. But the way love is expressed through high expectations, strict discipline, and relentless pressure can make children feel as though their worth is conditional. They begin to believe that unless they succeed academically, they are unworthy of affection. And so, the home, which should be a refuge, becomes another battlefield where young souls quietly suffocate. This paradox is not unique to South Korea, but it is particularly visible there because of the country's rapid transformation. In just a few decades, South Korea went from being one of the poorest nations in the world to one of the most advanced. Such progress brought prosperity, but it also raised the bar for what is considered normal. A generation ago, finishing high school was already an achievement. Today, entering a top university is seen as merely the starting point. The faster society develops, the higher the expectations climb, and the harder it becomes for individuals to feel good enough. What we are witnessing is the human cost of measuring progress only in terms of GDP, global rankings, and technological achievements, without balancing these with well-being, empathy, and emotional resilience. A society may have skyscrapers, high-speed internet, and the most advanced AI, but if its children are losing hope, can we truly call it developed? The question, then, is what can be done? First, the education system must change. Academic achievement is important, but it cannot be the only measure of a child's worth. Schools need to shift from being exam factories to environments that foster creativity, critical thinking, and emotional growth. Second, mental health must become a public priority. Counseling services should be accessible and decent. Talking to a therapist should be as natural as going to the doctor for a cold. Students must be taught not only how to solve equations, but also how to manage stress, express their emotions, and ask for help. Third, families must reclaim their role as a safe space. Love must be unconditional, not tied to grades or performance. Parents should spend time listening not just to the results of an exam, but to the silent fears in their children as hearts. A simple word of comfort can sometimes mean more than any material success. Finally, society at large needs to redefine what success means. Success should not only be about titles, salaries, or prestigious universities. True success is living a life of meaning, joy, and balance. If a nation can produce brilliant scientists but loses its young people to despair, then something fundamental has gone wrong. In conclusion, the rising suicide rate among South Korean students is not simply a statistic. It is a mirror reflecting the cracks beneath the surface of rapid development. It reminds us that the ultimate measure of progress is not found in technological achievements or economic wealth, but in the happiness, safety, and mental well-being of its future generation. Science and technology can build rockets to explore the stars, but if we fail to protect the light in our children's eyes, then we have truly lost our way.